Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Football Under the Floodlight, proper football under the floodlights. So it's the first edition, and what this is going to be about is basically we're going to be putting people under the floodlights, and we're going to be getting numerous people in from numerous parts of football, and we're going to be interviewing them and putting them under the floodlight, as it says on the tin. So, our first guest is a gentleman born of the East End, and as you can imagine, a massive West Ham supporter, but also well known as being the Boleyn Poet, and his poetry is truly amazing. Definitely born of working class roots, his poetry, and the way it comes through him we'll all be discussing through the course of the show. So, without further ado, I'd like you to meet Danny Fenn, aka the Boleyn Poet. How are you, mate?
I'm all good, Gal. Thanks for having me, mate.
Oh, look, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, obviously, we'll get on to what we're going to be discussing shortly, but obviously, me and you obviously experienced, shall we say, a rather deep moment when we did a show on Away Day Radio for Remembrance Sunday, and you came on as my guest, bringing some absolute, truly amazing poems with you. And yeah, that show just blew me away. I was exhausted at the end of it. It was very emotional, very proud of what we did that day, hugely proud. And that was when I first become aware of the Boleyn Poet. So what we're going to do today, Danny, is we're going to have a little chat about you, a little chat about your beloved club. Then we're going to talk about the poetry, and then we'll finish off talking about something that's very close to both our hearts, and is Isla Caton. So what we'll start with, mate, is born of the East End. What part?
Well, I don't know if you class Dagenham as the East End. It is now, but it's still got an Essex postcode, Gal. So I'm classed as an ex-boy.
Yeah.
But I consider myself a working class ex-boy, East Ender. My missus is a proper East Ender, Gal.
Yeah, my nan was born by the Bow Bells as well. I'm not North London, me, mate. But you know.
Well, no, but that depends, because I think it's within 6 miles of East London, 4 miles north, 4 miles south, and a couple of miles west to be a true Cockney. So I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
So you could very well be within the North London, although you're probably too young now anyway.
Yeah. But no, it's obviously West Ham is synonymous with the East End. You've obviously, Dagenham. We all know the association with Dagenham Motors on the front of the top. I guess as a young man or a young lad, inevitable that you would become a West Ham supporter. How did it all begin?
So for me, Gal, I was a football fan. Before I was a West Ham fan, I liked particular players. I liked Trevor Brooking. I liked all the skillful players, Alan Hudson, so some of them not West Ham players. Tony Curry, I don't know if you remember, if you're old enough to remember Tony Curry. All the sort of skillful players I liked. And then 1980, West Ham Cup final. Back then, the FA Cup was on the telly. It was come on at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, the actual final. And for a kid, that was what football was all about. FA Cup final day was, you could blow the league out of the water. You wanted to watch the FA Cup final, and being a kid, you dreamed of playing in the FA Cup final at Wembley, not winning the league. You dreamed of playing in the cup final. And a family friend by the name of Ron, who I've recently tracked down because he was a friend of my parents, he come up night before and told me, Mum and Dad, I've got Danny a ticket for the cup final tomorrow. And I was adamant, I'm not going. I'm watching it on the telly. I want to watch all the build up and that. And I was refusing, and my mum's, no, you're going. He's good enough to get you a ticket. And I said, well, I'll be a right little warrior all day, which I was. And this Ron and his mate, so I would have been 12 and a half. Best day of their lives, you know what I mean? And I probably ruined it for them because I was a sulky little kid, didn't want to be there. But when Sir Trevor headed the ball in, I sort of got swept up in all the emotion of it all. All these big fellas had me on their shoulders, and then when Bonzo lifted the cup, I just Ron, thank you for bringing me, and it changed my life forever after that. And I moved on from there.
Quite funny because I guess, you know, football is something we all. I mean, what a great statement you made there. I was a football fan first and foremost. And I think that must go for nearly everyone if they're honest. You know, you introduced to the club you fall in love with, but you overly would be a football fan the minute you're walking down to go to your first game. You know, and the funny thing about that was, I went to the Charity Shield game, West Ham Liverpool. I think Liverpool won 3-1. I can't remember now, but I went to that after that cup final. Was it 1980? Wasn't it? Was it 1980? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And I did. And as a football fan, I went and attended that. I managed to get a ticket and went down. Me and a mate.
How old would you have been then? How old was you then in 1980?
I would have been 14.
Oh, so you're actually older than me. I thought you was younger. For some reason, I get.
Mate, don't worry about it. You had a hard paper round, I heard. I mean, it was always going to be tough to do a paper round where you lived, I would have thought. You know, I wouldn't worry about it, mate. You know I look really young for my age, and people were shocked when they. But anyway, but look, obviously we're talking about West Ham now. You've got the name, and we are going to talk in more depth about your poetry a little further on in the show. But you've got the name, the Boleyn Poet. I believe a certain acquaintance of ours helped you decide on that name.
He did.
Obviously associated with the old West Ham ground as Upton Park, the Boleyn Stadium, whatever people used to call it. And clearly that was a traumatic thing for all West Ham, true West Ham fans, to leave that ground. And I know that it was traumatic for you, because obviously what we'll be doing in a few minutes is showing one of your poems that you've done about the bowling ground, and you actually do a video while you're walking around reciting the poem you wrote, and we're going to do that. So it's quite a traumatic time for you losing the bowling ground, like it was most, wasn't it?
Gal, that last season, so many of us got swept up in the farewell to the bowling nonsense that they created. I was being told by so many people that should have known better, my generation, you need to move forward. We need a bigger stadium to do better. And that doesn't make any sense to me. You've got clubs with 50,000. It don't mean they win anything. I won't mention that. Look, Newcastle, Sunderland get massive. Have got massive crowds each week, but they still don't win you nothing just because you've got a big ground. And for me, as yourself, football is more about where you belong. And still, I don't belong at Stratford. I truly don't feel like I belong. I don't like the walk. There's nothing makes it feel like home. For an away fan, it's probably a great ground to go to Stratford because it's a day out.
I'll give you an opinion on that if you want. As an away fan who's been in there, and I know they've changed it this season, haven't they? They've brought the front end more to the pitch, which is great. Yeah. But I've been a guest of Steve Guy and that in the posh seats when we played West Ham. But I've also a couple of times been up in the very high bit, you know, on the away end.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, mate, and I don't mean it disrespectfully to your club or anything. It's not. I think it's awful. I think it's just, you know, it just don't feel like a football ground to me. I guess if I was at the front end, it's a bit different, but from the back end, quite far up, you just feel you're far too, you know. It's coming for a lot of criticism, but I suppose, you know, it's moved West Ham to another level at the moment, I guess. As much as you miss the bowling ground,
I don't really get how it's moved us to any form of other level. To be honest with you, we're playing reasonably well. We're now getting fanned out. The owners can. So we've had a few protests since we've been there. We had one with
Yeah.
9,000 turned up, and then the last one, because we was doing well, there was about 200 of us turned up, and we had other fans, younger fans, walking past telling us, "You don't know what you're doing." Blah, blah, blah. Where these was proper, the people that turned up for that was the real old school West Ham. These was blokes in their 60s, like
yeah.
because they're saying
So-
Golden Sullivan promised us European football within 5 years, and that's been achieved. So as far as a lot of people are concerned, they can't see further than the end of their nose.
It's really interesting because I've spoke to a number of West Ham fans. I've spoke to the guys who do the West Ham blogs and stuff like that, you know, and the level of hatred towards the owners is really that is another level. I mean, without a doubt. But like you say, that is also split the fan base, I guess, like you're just saying, and I suppose it gets more difficult for the old school lads and lasses who can see what's wrong necessarily, because they're doing so well this year, makes that argument very difficult. Yet,
Gal, they don't want what you would just refer to as the old school fan. They really don't want us there. They want people that are going to come in the club shop, spend 30, 40 quid before the game, spend 7, 8 quid on one pint, and come in, stand up when they're told to, buy an half and half scarf, buy a bag of popcorn.
do you know, you're going to have to come on our live show because you sound like me. I'm very much, I mean, generalising football. I feel that is something that's going on now. Really interesting now. And actually, I think I've mentioned it, but I won't mention the name of the person, but they did put a thing up on our chat room last Thursday, and he sits on the fan board with the directors. So he represents fans. And he told us that he spoke with Karen Brady. And this pretty much sums up what I think is the problem with the Premier League and where they want, you know, the fan base to be. And her words were, we don't need the revenue from the fans anymore, and we don't want the traditional football fan there anymore.
That's a fact. And I think anyone who sort of got half a brain understands that. And that's not being disrespectful to anyone. But
yeah,
that is a fact. And slowly, since the Premier
absolutely.
League's come into fruition, that is slowly what's happened. I don't think it matters. Years ago, we could sing "We Pay Your Wages" and things like that. But do we pay? I don't know. Well, we don't pay their wage. What we pay at the season ticket holder now is insignificant to what they're getting in revenue from TV companies. It's just going through the roof. And it's not the beautiful game that we knew, Gal. It's a whole new. If you ever watch ITV4, the big match revisited, muddy pitches, players with their socks around their ankles, and that's the football I grew up with. That's the football I love. Maybe I'm a dinosaur, Gal, and it's a new. Well, it's moved on, but it's not what I grew up and loved.
No, and I mean, I think, you know, I'm the voice of that on our live shows quite regular, and I think West Ham's a great example, and getting that feedback from someone who sits on the supporters board but that isn't just about West Ham. I mean, that sentiment is throughout the Premier League.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
And it's very hard to know where it all goes, you know. And like you say, a lot of people turn into non-league football nowadays and lower league football because the football we fell in love with, it just isn't there anymore. And unfortunately, and West Ham will be part of this, and part of that is because of the stadium as well. As when I say it went on to another level, I think when I say that, it put you in the bracket of you could be deemed as one of that elite group. Mainly around the fact that you'll get 60,000 people in that stadium week in, week out.
But how many of them are what you would call proper fans?
Oh,
and again, that's not disrespectful to the new breed of supporter, but what we call a fan, someone that's got football was, for our generation, Gal, it was tribal. It was, and I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about you loved your area, you're passionate about your area, you're passionate, you wear your colours with pride, so to speak. That's a totally different. I wouldn't be seen dead in an half and half scarf, like things like that. And you get these people sitting there with you're playing a certain team and they've got West Ham, Spurs, Scott, like half and half, and I just think, what is that? What's going on? But it's unfortunately that's the future, Gal, and that's only the beginning.
Yes, it is only the beginning. I can imagine that we'll have VAR will make a decision, and why VAR's make the decision, you're going to have an ad.
Yeah.
You're going to have Adele play at the London Stadium at half time, which will be a half an hour break. You'll have all your fans going West Ham, rah, 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 with their big puffy hands that they bought for a tenner on the way in.
Without a shadow of a...
I'm guessing a lot of West Ham fans will watch this interview, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I really don't, because when I say that, I mean that is what's going to happen in football. That is not just a West Ham problem, but in football. But it is an interesting scenario with the way that the fan base is so split at West Ham, and the hatred for the owners by, shall we say, the one half of the support. And I guess that makes life quite difficult. You are having a fantastic season. I mean, no two ways about it. Really are.
Yeah, the wheels seem to be falling off a bit now, Gal, where through lack of investment in the transfer window.
Yes.
But I'll take where we are, and we're still in the FA Cup, and we're still in the Europa League. So,
was you one of the fans that was very disappointed about not spending a penny during the transfer window? Did you feel you should have done?
Of course, we needed to, didn't we? We really need a striker. Antonio's now getting knocked because he's not a striker, but he's now our top ever scorer we've ever had in Premier League, not in West Ham's history, but in Premier League history. He's now our top. He's scored more than Di Canio. So for a makeshift striker, you can't really knock him. But we need a striker. And look at Allah. Look at Sebastian Allah now. I think he's a top scorer in Europe. He's banging them in left, right, and centre. But he wasn't utilised in the correct way by Moyes. Moyes has got a certain way of playing. But who am I to judge David Moyes? You know what I mean? He has done it. And I didn't want him there the first time, David Moyes. Yeah. And when he come back, I was very vocal in saying it was a complete mistake. I hold my hands up. He's done a cracking job. He has done it. But he needed to buy a few players.
Oh, yeah.
In the transfer window.
But yeah, I guess from a neutral perspective, seeing what happened with West Ham in the transfer window, this is probably the best opportunity you've ever had to get Champions League football at the London Stadium. And maybe the lack of not bringing in a little bit more tired legs towards the end of the season, you know, maybe a slightly bigger squad or certainly a bit more experience in certain areas. It is quite surprising from neutral looking in why West Ham did not invest to get that Champions League spot, because it would have been a good investment.
Maybe I'm being cynical, but I know the owners can sell up in this year or next year without the big tax payment that was added each year. Slowly went down from over the last 5 years. It's gone down. Right. Either this year or next year, they can sell without having to pay this huge sum of money out. So maybe they thought to themselves, why should we invest any more money? Maybe not, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
So what's your opinion of the chap, the Slovakian, is it? Is he from Slovakia? The chap who's bought in?
Czech Republic.
The Czech Republic, that's it, sorry. Yeah. So what's your opinion? He's bought in at 25% with the potential of him becoming the full owner at some point, I guess.
Right. So with that, I can't really sort of comment because I don't know. It sounded good at the time, but I was hoping he would sort of push the others to do something in this transfer window. Is he maybe just sitting back and waiting for his time? But to be honest, just quickly, I'll throw this in there. Terence Brown, who used to be the chairman or the owner years ago, he got a lot of stick. And if I can only say what I saw firsthand. And now, when my mum was ill, he looked up, because my mum and dad both worked over there. He looked after my mum. He got her sent abroad to have a knee replacement. This was the old owner, Terence Brown, who's pretty much hated universally by West Ham fans. Sent her to a holiday camp to recuperate. So you get what I mean, Gal? You can sort of knock people, but they do good things. Like Sullivan's done a lot for Isla as well. So as much as in a football perspective, You get what I'm saying? But in maybe in a human role, they're not as bad as they are. Well, they are humans. So I've got to put that across. I know Sullivan done quite a lot for Isla, and Terence Brown looked after my mum. So,
and what I'm going to play the video, the poem that you've done for the bowling ground, and this was after you'd left. So this is like shall we say what made you write this poem?
right.
Just came back, and then what I'd like to do is just have a little chat about your mum and dad's involvement at West Ham as well, which there was an involvement. So, but first and foremost, this poem we're going to play.
Yeah, that come about. I'm talking about the old area in that verse, right? And it was so basically I went there to make a pilgrimage after it had gone. So in the verse, I recently made a pilgrimage to say one final prayer, but it was only dust and memories, Upton Park's no longer there. So basically, that's what that was. It was my little. I went home. Basically, I went back home, but sadly, home had gone. Do you get what I mean? That's the gist of that poem.
I think this poem will represent probably a representation of a lot of the feeling of your fellow West Ham supporters at the time. What I will say, because I've watched it, there's a set of flats there are very recognisable from many films, which I recognise, and I'm thinking, recognise them flats. They've really been used in a lot of films, and I think people watching it will know what I'm on about in a moment. But I think this is representative of the deep feeling of losing your ancestral home, should we call it? But this is the video. Let's play it now.
Now you've got the Bernabeu, the Nou Camp, the San Siro in Milan. But E13, the bowling ground, for me, is where it all began. That place was like a church to us. It was where we'd come to pray, where we'd sing our favourite hymns and watch our heroes play. Walking out the station, the smell, the sight, the sound. Twinkle town like Alan Devonshire to avoid the horse manure on the ground. Bacon sarnie from Ken to help us soak the beer as we paid our programme set with ear and all the Spot the tickets out. I'll buy any spares for cash. Popping into Nathan's for a double pie and mash. Join the queue to the South Bank and his knees up Mother Brown as Brooklyn glides from side to side and Bobby wears his crown. Spot the away fans feeling safe within their pen. You'll never make the station is ringing out again. The rolled up sleeves of Bonzo and Paolo's fancy tricks, the grace of Ian Bishop and a thunderbolt from Dix. The days at Upton Park are sadly now all finished, but our ghosts and all our heroes, they can never be diminished. 1-0 to the Cockney boys, you'd hear the fateful cry. Long live the bowling, dreams won't fade and die. I recently made a pilgrimage to say one final prayer. There is only dust and memories, the old girl, she's no longer there. But I'll always remember at her best midweek under lights, atmospherically electric, one of football's finest sights. And you've got the Theatre of Dreams, Wembley, Lazio in Rome. E13, the bowling ground, will always be our own. Come on, you Irons.
There you go. Bit windy that day, though, wasn't it?
Oh, it was very windy. But you know what, Gal? Even now looking at it upsets me just looking at them flats, because the reason we was told we couldn't build on the east stand was, one, because of the flats behind it. It was too high and it had blocked their view, and two, because of the bus garage. Bus garage shut in 2012 or 2013, long before we moved, and the flats that are now there are higher than them anyway. So it was all, we were sold a lie. We were sold a complete lie, Gal.
Yeah, are they? Look, the owners did not. They wanted to be where they wanted to be. They got a cracking deal out of it, and it suited them. But like I say, I've got a feeling. Sorry,
you can't blame them as business people, but for us, it's ripping our art and soul out of a community. The whole community's been destroyed around here now. Boleyn pub now is like 15 quid. You want to go in there and have a little plate of chips and a beer, you're looking at 15, 20 quid. They've put memorabilia in there, but it's still not the same. It's just the pie and mash shop's gone, the cafe's gone.
I think, this again, relating back to general football, you look at what happened with Bury and what's been happening to other clubs. Look at what Derby have been going through, and you're right what you say. Owners got a business to run, but I don't think they. It's almost like I think football clubs should have a blue things and grey listed to not allow it protected, because they're not just a business. And this is why there's so much conflict in football, I think, with fans and everything. Should we say disillusionment? Because yes, it is a business, but for the fans, it isn't. It's a way of life. It's your community.
Exactly. It's just like if you shop at Asda, just for instance, our shops are available. You're not happy in Asda, but you've been loyal to Asda for years. If they start treating you badly and upping everything, and you hear Tesco's are cheaper, you're going to go to Tesco's. Do you get what I mean? You can't just change my football club like that. I can't just.
No, you can't.
They're a business as well, but I'm emotionally attached to a ground, to a stadium, to an area, to a shirt, to a badge, to people. It's a completely different attachment.
The football authorities and everyone, they do not understand that, mate. And the reason they don't understand it is we look at the current situation where football violence is creeping back in a little bit, and I listen to all the police and what they say, and the people from the FA and not at any point do I hear them actually recognise why does this sort of thing. It's like, it's drug related. The problem you got is they don't realise just it is part of your life. It takes over. It is everything. It's like someone coming into your home.
Yeah. Just strolling in your house. Yeah, and just taking a liberty.
It is.
Yeah.
And they don't realise that. And when that sort of passion is in a game, that sort of passion is in them supporters, that can lead to it spilling over to something else, because and until they recognise that, until they understand that fans need to be treated in a certain way, need to have a bit of respect, they're not going to solve that problem of fans maybe disrespecting a little bit back and it's spilling over into violence. I'm not condoning it. I was around in the 80s. We, hands up, part of what the 80s was about, Yeah. But again, even back then, it was, they did do studies, and they said, look, even the people doing the studies would get behind the goal, and that tribal instinct would kick in. Yeah. And they have to, realise if you start treating fans badly, and fans
they're going to react.
Sorry?
They're going to react if you treat them
react. Absolutely.
Treat people like animals, and they will end up acting like animals.
It's but anyway, let's carry on. Otherwise, we run into a political interview. I don't want to do that. So football's become too political as it is. Your mum and dad were involved with West Ham quite heavily, wasn't they? Right. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So my dad, Charlie was my stepdad, but he's the man who brought me up. My real biological dad, I'll say on here, was a bully. He was a horrible man. My stepdad was a top man. He took me on I was a horrible little shit. I grew up with my mum and my sisters. Suddenly had a man come in the house. We rebelled against it all. He was a top man. He really was a top man. And he worked over West Ham. He was security over there for years. And then Terence Brown, who was the owner I mentioned earlier, at some point in the 80s mentioned he was bringing in ID cards no one was allowed in, member of staff, without an ID card. And on the very first game, he turned up, Terence Brown, he owned the club. My old man, Charlie Car Park, as he was known, because he had the players' car park, he wouldn't let Terence Brown into his own stadium. And he's going, Charlie, it's my ground, it's my stadium, let me in. And he said, no pass, you've told me you ain't. And he made his chauffeur go home and get his pass. So he said, I want Charlie made head of security because I know no fucker will get in. Basically, if he's not letting me in my own stadium, I want him. So he worked there for donkey's years. And then when it was time for him to, and again, knock Harry Redknapp. I can't knock Harry Redknapp. When it was time for my old man to retire, he said to him, Charlie, come to the training ground. I'll get all the boys to chip in. The players weren't on with money then, not silly like it is.
No.
It was before it all went absolutely ridiculously
stupid. Yeah.
When the players back then, they still had to. I think it was somebody retired probably in the 90s. So the Premier League had begun, but it hadn't gone silly. Players still had to earn a living, and then probably still had to do something after football to sort of survive. But basically, all the players would chuck him a score, a tenner each. At the end of the week, and he'd come home with 400 quid wages, and he just used to stand over the train and make them all laugh, because he was an ex-para, the old man. He was in the Second World War, Battle of Arnhem, Arden's nails. He said exactly, there was no... So with the players, Julian Dix, you've obviously heard of Julian Dix. He mentions me old man in a book, and he mentions him in a DVD, The Terminator, or whatever it's called. He actually says the man he was more frightened of anyone has ever come across was Charlie, the old man. And basically, because he used to drive, you give a paratrooper an instruction, he will follow it. And Charlie used to have to take him backwards and forwards. And I met Julian Dix recently at an event, and I mentioned to him Charlie was my dad. He said, his eyes lit up. He said, your dad. And to hear like one of my heroes say something like that is beautiful. And he said, when I've done my knee injury, this is Julian Dix saying that, he said, Charlie had to take me backwards and forwards to Harley Street every day. He said, I used to wish that there was more seat belts in the car. He said, because he just used to drive. No, there was no such thing as a red light. He just used to floor it, full pelt. And he said, I used to say to him, I'll get a train home, Charlie. Don't wait. He said, I'd come out and he'd be sitting there going, no, I've been told I've got to get you back to the training ground. And he's Julian Dix said, I used to shit myself with him driving. But he's gone now, and Charlie, my old man, his ashes are now in a memorial garden at Upton Park. There's about 110, 115 people's ashes are in what was called the Lyle Gates. So you had the John Lyle Gates, you had a tree right by the players' car park, the Bobby Moore tree, basically, as it's sort of become christened. And there's about 115, 120 people's ashes sprinkled around that, and Charlie's ashes are there. So he's still in his car park. That was why he was known as Charlie Car Park.
Oh, brilliant. What a fantastic story. Brilliant. Look, I'll tell you what now. So we established you're a Stam supporter. But I got introduced to you through doing the radio shows we already mentioned, which was quite an emotional event. It went so well. And that was partly really to do with some of the... I think you give me 5 poems, and I think a couple of them I put some background to for you, and they were amazing. And that one of them particular poems, shortly, I'd love to have played them all, or certainly the ones you did a bit of work on, but because one of them I put an Nimrod behind, and that will get up. So we'll play the one in a minute. I put just all I did was put a trumpet in this, but this particular poem, if I'm right, is this the one of a...
Right, so I was Romford, a shopping centre. I think it was the Friday or the Saturday before Remembrance Sunday. I think it was about 2018. I actually wrote it in November. And I just see another bloke, obviously he had his berry on. I think he had a green berry on. And I just see him, and that generally that's how my poem come from, a visual something, just straight away, just this old bloke going to the memorial and with a tear in his eye and a medal on his chest, because this bloke had a medal on his thing. So I quickly pulled up, I run into a Betfred, run into a betting shop, grabbed a couple of slips of paper and just literally scribbled this little verse down. And that's how that come about, really. And that's it. That's generally how they feel.
People who haven't come across you, and many have, and we'll discuss that a bit more in a moment. But you know, for me, you amaze me because you're a bus driver by trade, aren't you? So you work on
I work at West Ham, so I did. I did work at West Ham for many years and done all sorts of jobs. I used to take people on tours around the stadium and set all the function rooms up. and then lost that job in 2009, I think it was. And then, yeah, I've been driving a bus ever since, and that's where I write a lot of my poems at bus stops, traffic lights, things I see, things out the window.
This is the brilliant, this beauty of your story is that you know, you sat on your bus, parked up, waiting for the next time to pull up, and you're writing your poem. It's just amazing. And I guess we could call you the Rick Astley of the poetry world. For those of you that don't know and are thinking, what is he going on about? Rick Astley was a bus driver. Right.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I want to play that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Rick Astley was a bus driver.
Oh, he was a bus driver. No, yeah. He was a bus driver, wasn't he? And when he became famous. But yeah, he was a bus driver when he started that pop career back in the 80s. Yeah, that's why I said it. You're the Rick Astley of the poetry world.
I wondered what he was on about earlier.
Let's have a listen to this. People, listen to the words of this. It's amazing. And this is the sort of poetry. And correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, your poetry, it feels like it's coming from that working class background. It's down to earth. It's about people, normal, everyday people. And this is what comes across in your poems to me.
That's what we like to
your poems about remembrance are just truly astonishing. Let's have a listen to this one. And this was from the show we did back in 2019.
Tear in his eye and a medal on his chest, the old soldier respectfully lowers his head. And as the last post is played, he sadly recalls those referred to as the glorious dead. No longer a boy, but barely a man sent off to fight in a war. And through misty eyes he looks up to the skies and wonders just what it was for. By land and by sea, sent off to battle, so many who never returned. And as he stands to attention, he can't help but ponder, if ever, a lesson was learned. Through trenches and fields the poppy would grow, where the unknown would eternally lay. Lest we forget that they gave their tomorrow, so each one of us could have a today. So when you see that old man, go shake his hand, tell him it's an honour to be stood by his side, and that every November you won't fail to remember, and you'll always wear your poppy with pride.
Wow. And I actually, at the end of that show, mate, I had tears streaming down my face. It was so emotional. And I had 5 poems from you of that they're just amazing. And I'm sure everyone who's just watched that, you know, there you are. 5 I had. And I did some of my own work, if you remember, as well. Yeah. And, oh, mate, that was...
it was truly an honour to be involved with you that day. It was a really emotionally... I was really humbled to be on there with you all day.
Oh, I mean, at the end of it, I think people heard me.
I heard you.
I just run over a few seconds and I just went whoosh. Oh, my God, I think is what my words were. And I just gushed. And I had tears stream down. You know, it all come together so well with the work you did, the work I did. And the real shame about it is, obviously, I no longer have a dealing with Away Day Radio for a very long story. But unfortunately, I don't have any copy or anything of that show. And I had people telling me, people like Richard Charters and that, a very season ticket holder at West Ham from Carlisle. Travels down from Carlisle. And Richard, he got older me and he said, that's the best bit of radio I'd ever heard in my life. You know, it was that emotional, but I haven't got it. And it's such a shame. But, you know, that was my introduction to you and your poetry. And I've listened to more. And, you know, it does feel it's from the street. It's from the heart. You know, I mean, what got you into poetry, mate?
Gal, I used to write songs on the guitar, really, and I try and make this is how it come about coming into poetry. So I've always wrote songs, and I used to sit there and we'd do what we do, and I'd sing them to half a dozen mates in one house, in another house, And then I was on a Facebook page and a memories page, and there was all people I knew from the 90s in there on this page. And they all started, we was quoting music lyrics, and they all started quoting lines from my songs that I wrote in the 90s. And I said, I can't believe you all remembered my lyrics. And they said, Dan, your songs was really good, but your voice is absolutely dreadful. Like when you sing, you sound like a proper old drunk bloke in a pub. And I went, oh. And I went, it was almost poetic, your words. And I thought, you know what, they're actually right. So I then posted a poem up on a poetry page, which was a big mistake because these was proper poetic people that know what a verb is, a noun, and do you get what I mean? And I still don't know what a verb is. I still don't know what a noun is. And all these people ruined me, basically, about my grammar, blah, 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 telling me about, well, verbs and nouns and whatever, pronouns, and just blew me away. And I didn't even, and I sort of backed away. I thought, oh, shit, what was that? But my missus said to me, it's a wrong sort of page for you. You're a working class person. They're on about fluffy clouds. So I then put a West Ham one up on a West Ham page, and I was getting people messaging me that moved away to Australia, all around the world, going to me, mate, you've just made me cry. You've just took me on a journey. And then it just sort of went from there. And then I just found that I can just write pretty much to order. So, so tomorrow, unfortunately, I'm going to a funeral and I've written something for someone's mum. Like, and he said to me, do you want me to put your name on the back? I said, no, bro, it's for you. You know what I mean? It's for you. Yeah. In honour to your mum.
I mean, you told me a story about what happened on a plane coming back from holiday. Do you want to just share that with us?
Can I just get a drink, Gal?
Of course you can, mate. You go for it.
1 second.
Come on, I'll join you. Look, I'll join you.
1 minute.
Folks, while he's out of the room having a drink, hopefully I'll cut this bit out, but if I can't, seriously, this guy is so talented, and I know that his poems, yes, a lot about West Ham, but in football, generalising as well. And you know, we hopefully we'll get some of them up on our new website. So here he is. Cool. So yeah, just let's get stories.
No, I've actually been for a scan and a blood test and that today, and I'm a bit parched, Gal.
Okay.
So, well, I'm all right though. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Gal.
Yeah, so the story about what happened on the plane coming back from holiday.
Well, first of all, geezer come up. So I was at Lanzarote just after the lockdown ended. I think it was October. Went to the geezer come up. Hello, you're Danny the Boleyn Poet. I love it. You know what I mean? Mrs. goes, here we go. And he shook me hand. And then as we got on the plane, I had to remove my mask, my face mask. No one else was. And I sort of went like that, and she went, oh, it is him. And it turns out one of the air hostesses, her brother, is a West Ham fan. I can't remember his name. But she said, when we looked through names, she said, I wonder if that's that Danny Fenn the poet, which is an honour. And as we know, Steve Guy, a friend of ours, give me that name, and I'll wear that badge with pride. You know what I mean? When people say, oh, you're the Boleyn Poet, I'm linked with the place I love. So for me, it's an honour. So they asked, would I write something for them? So in midair, I wrote something. It's on my phone somewhere. I waited till about, and I was a bit conscious of reading it. I thought, is it a bit corny? It was about how they had to smile, even though they got the mask on. I can see their smiling through their eyes, and a difficult job because these poor women was going backwards and forwards. They got to wear this mask in 4 hours constantly. So I said, right, you ready? And they said, yeah, will you take your mask down because you're very expressive when you read it. So I took my mask off, read it. 2 of them just burst into tears, cuddling me, then come up because I hadn't even told my missus I'd done it because I just typed it out on my phone. She's then come down and gone, oh, he's a charmer, your other half. It's beautiful what he's done. My missus just looked, what's he done? Said, oh, he's written us a little verse. And then at the end, I've had my picture taken with them all, with him and the pilots. And it's going to go on Jet 2 magazines in the. So if you get on a Jet 2 flight, you're going to see me standing there proudly with me 4 little dolly birds. I shouldn't say that in case they actually do say it. They're not dolly birds, just 4 lovely ladies. And it'll be in the Jet 2 magazine that you buy that everyone leaves through on the back. You know, the ones in the back.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So, I mean, this definitely seems to be one of your strengths, is that if I said to you now, go and do me a poem about the state of football, you'd come back the next day with this most amazing poem. I know you would. You know,
I
but
would.
look, have you got any intention? I mean, you've got so many wonderful poems, and you are going to recite me one in a little while when we talk about Little Isla. But have you got any intention of putting a book together so that people you can share these wonderful poems with people?
Right. So what I've got, Gal, I'm doing it through Amazon, where they end up nicking 65% of all proceeds. That's fair enough, because that works out cheaper than me printing. So, and that's virtually ready to go. One's a general nostalgic poetry book about all sorts of things, just general poetry. It touches on all sorts, not football, it's not aimed at that sort of audience. And then I've got another one which was purely West Ham. Again, and I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, that was ready to go. And I run it past, I don't know if I can mention, his name's Abe Acher. He wrote Bill Gardner's book and a few others. And they said to me, you need to be careful because of the pictures you're using. As you said earlier, certain pictures you've got to be careful. So there's a very famous picture of Bobby Moore and Pele swapping shirts in 1970. Do you know that picture?
Yes, I have seen that picture.
Bobby Moore and Pele, they're both shirtless, swapping shirts. Very iconic.
Just look over my shoulder. Look, hang on.
I've seen the book. Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
Look, there he is.
Yeah. Well, that iconic picture, I was told, be careful. And Abe traced the owner of this thing, of that picture, and he lives in Dubai. It isn't even easy. It was his uncle, and I messaged him and said, would you mind if I use this in a book? Because I've wrote a poem called The 6 and the 10. 6 Bobby Moore, 10 Pele, obviously. Yeah. And he said, yeah. And I sent him the poem. He said, absolutely beautiful, but it's £100 for just to use it once. Now, when you're selling a book for £5 and you want to pay £100 just for one picture, that's a lot of money. And then there's a picture of a friend of mine, someone I know. And I said to him, John, can I use your picture in front of the gates? And he said, I don't own it. A lady called, I won't say her name, because I'm in a bit of a standoff with her at the moment. She wants a oneer. So everyone owns these pictures, wants £100. And then to top it all, the club wanted me to give them 15% to use the badge. The badge that they no longer want, with the castle and the crest on.
Yeah.
They wanted 15%. So with Amazon 65%, 15% West Ham. Now, what the club have done there, they've been very, and I'm also doing, so with that war poem book, that Poppy's one, I've got about 12 or 14 of them, just about memorial, that I was going to put into a book, and all of that I was going to give to Help for Heroes. So I'm doing my bit for charity. But the club have said to me, now I've said to the club, if you're going to nick 15% off me, I'm going to let everyone know how bad you are. Billionaires, millionaires, trying to nick 15%. So they've turned it around and they've said, okay, we don't want that money. All we want you to do is give 15% to charity. So in turn, it makes me look bad if I don't donate that. So I'm stuck in a bit of limbo there.
You could end up losing money.
Well, yeah. So I'm stuck. I'm in a bit of
football clubs do. And more outgoings and incomings. But I take it, obviously, there will be something at some point that will come out, and that'd be great. And on that as well, I mean, when we release this interview, we should be very much near up and running with our website, and we'd love to publish some of your work in there, and get people to really know who you are, and that would be great if you're up for that, and. That'd be wonderful. But
just give me the subjects, Gal, and I'll come up with you.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, I'll tell you what. It's like, we were all about promoting lower league where they really struggle. The proper football. That's why we got the grassroots. And there's some clubs that really, really struggle. And I guess if we give you a subject about one of them clubs, I bet you could come up with a wonderful poem that would give them supporters. Because it's the supporters that always suffer. Us fans, it's not the owners. It's not, we're the ones, like you've already said tonight, talking to you about, the way it wrenched the heart out of the community and that. And you know, no, we'll definitely look at doing some work, I think, and getting you promoted. So I think people need to know about you more. I know you've got a lot of followers, but you need more. People really need to hear your stuff. You're a talented man, and that talent needs to be heard. It really does, because it's blown me away. So just changing the subject now. One of the things that both me and you, very close to our hearts, I got involved with fundraising was little Isla Caton, who recently passed. And it was a bit ironic that we 2 years ago had been through such an emotional thing, but we'd never actually met. And then we were stood admiring the huge amount of flowers that were, the pictures just gone up there. And that's just a small proportion for people watching. That on this beautiful day of celebration, but such a sad day of loss as well, and that's where we were talking, and then there was a realization who we both were. It's like, oh my god! And so, but I wish it could have been in different circumstance that we'd met, but Isla Caton really touched the hearts of West Ham, as well as many other people in the football community. I know that better than a lot of people because of the fundraising we did away from West Ham. You know, with our away day radio weekend, we raised about £14,000. And yeah, a lot of that was involvement of West Ham fans, but a lot of people all over the country got involved with that. I guess a little bit like the Bradley Lowry situation. Both Bradley and Isla both, unfortunately, having the same neuroblastoma. I can't pronounce it.
Neuroblastoma.
That's it. And I got it right then, didn't I? But yeah, Isla Caton, I mean, proper touched my heart, and I know yours. And you know, I don't know. West Ham have done so much. I got to say, West Ham done that little girl proud with some of the things that they did for her. You know, and I read today that there's a petition to get the number 12 shirt retired.
Correct. Yeah, I've signed that now. Yeah, because she was number 12. So, she was number 12 recently on the list in the programme.
Yeah, that's right. She was. I remember. Yeah.
So that's the aim. And you know what? The club and the owners have had their knockers, and I'm one of them. But where Isla's concerned, they've done everything really bang on. Really. Yeah. Everything's been bang. I can't knock them for that.
No, definitely. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I know you probably, I've sort of given you the heads up, I know, but during the course of the wake of little Isla's funeral, I think was it Tony or
no, Stevie, her uncle Steve read out.
Her uncle Stephen read out one of your poems, and
it wasn't particularly. It wasn't really a poem, Gal. It was just a few words. It was just a few.
I guess, yeah. I mean, what is? I mean, just out of interest, what is a poem? I mean, it is, even if it's just a few. Is it not the use of the word which is what makes you the talent you are? Whether it's a few words or a lot of words, it's the use of them words. And I let people judge for themselves when you read this poem that you did for Bless Her Little Isla. If you want to, grace us with it.
A baby entered this world, little Isla was her name. If she ever crossed your path, you would never be quite the same. She was, without a doubt, angelic and everything that brings. The only thing that were missing were delicate angel wings. Now she can soar, with angels she can fly, free from all life's pains with the bubbles in the sky. Sorry, I choked up a bit there, Gal.
No, I know. It's very hard. That's a great picture. A couple of good. I mean, the iconic one there with Noble that we've just put up there. I mean, the comfort that brings, and I've seen the comments that you've had from Nicola on some of the stuff you've done for Nicola, and we'll touch on something else in a moment. But your words, they bring some. I mean, that means a lot to people, that Isla's parents, and your words. And you say that was just a few words. them words were like really powerful. They're really, and it's how you put them together. You've got a talent that needs to be, and people, please share this, share this, and honestly, and let people know the Boleyn. The Boleyn Poet.
The Boleyn
The
word.
Boleyn Poet. I'm picking you up, and then I forget the last bit. The Boleyn word man. But no, seriously, I'm not blowing smoke up your arse, mate. I mean, your words are powerful. You've got a talent, and you know, for that element there, you know, you actually give some joy, some I don't know what the word is really, in a time of great sorrow. You know, comfort. That's it. That's the word. So honestly, well done you on that. And
Can I just say, I spoke to Nicola today because I mentioned to her I was going to mention her, and I'd like to just sort of say what she's going to try to go ahead with as Isla's legacy is she'll never get the funding. We'll never have the funding to cure childhood cancer. It's never going to happen.
No.
But childhood cancer gets only two. I think she said she was meant to message me because I said I will forget figures. I can remember words and poems, but figures I'm dreadful. But out of all the money that's given for cancer research, investigations, whatever you want to call it, childhood cancer only gets 2.5%, which is really not good enough. The children are our future, Gal. I know that's a song. I'm nicking that from a song, but they are the future of everything, Gal.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, the next generation.
What Nicola is going to fight to do, she's going to get it. I know she's got a local MP involved. She's going to get so that somehow childhood cancer has its own pot, rather than just having 2.5%. It needs more. They shouldn't have been having to send a little girl to Spain to get treatment and paying all that money. It shouldn't be happening. I'll just leave that there.
No, yeah, and I've been in touch with Nicola as well and said that whatever direction she wants to go down for Isla's legacy, Proper Football will promote it, will get behind it, will do whatever we got to do to help her, you know, because everyone involved with Proper Football was pretty much involved with the weekend we did for Isla, and so it is really close to us, you know. And Dan and me were at the funeral, obviously, and yeah, we're going to get behind that and you know, help Nicola. You know, here's a use of words for you. So, in my view, for Nicola is to put that beautiful, gorgeous smile that Isla had on the faces of all them other children that are suffering. Yeah. The Isla smile, you know. That it's hard to talk about because such a gorgeous smile that lovely child had. But
the most gorgeous little voice. Gal used to talk American, right? And it just used to be, and she even wished me happy birthday. And Nick got to happy birthday, Danny, and it just melted me up.
Yeah. I remember her thanking us.
Oh,
I remember her thanking us, and I mean, you know, this is an interview about you, but like I say, it's lovely talking about Isla, and I know me and you will definitely support Nicola in whatever she does, and but to put Isla's smile on the faces of children that maybe have not been able to smile would be a great legacy, I think. And if that can be done by fighting this corner, then we'll be right behind it. Yeah. On saying all this, you yourself have had a battle with cancer, haven't you?
I have, yeah. And I've just been
a little bit about that.
So I've been this morning for my 6-month checkup. I've now got scan anxiety. I've got to wait a week for all my results.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm fine, Gal, but it's easier than done. And as you build up to each set of blood tests and that, and I want to ring that bell. I really want to get there after 5 years. So, and I'll say all men, certain age, any age, get yourself checked. You all know your bodies better than anyone. Feel your nuts. Have a look when you go in the toilet. Seriously, might sound gruesome. Get yourself checked. If you feel something's not right, because I wouldn't be here if I didn't know my own body. I went to the doctors 3 years ago saying I don't feel right, I'm tired, I'm constantly shattered. That's all my symptoms was. I was beyond normal tired. I was exhausted, and I'd get up after 8 hours sleep, and I'd want to go back to bed again. And somehow I was still managing to drive a bus. And it's only because I kept on and on. They said, all right, we send you for a blood test. Come back. I was anemic. And they said, we want to send you for other tests. It turned out I had bowel cancer. I had an operation, done 6 months of chemotherapy, which finished in 2019. I'm all clear. I've had a check today, and I'm sure I'm still all clear. But don't let people tell, honestly, anybody listening to this, woman as well, if you feel you're not right, get yourself and don't have none of it. A blood test won't tell you necessarily got cancer, but it'll highlight something's not body.
Yeah.
And investigate. Don't let doc tell you, oh, you're just overthinking things. I might have gone off on a tangent. But if I hadn't done that with this girl, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this now. Yeah. I would be dead without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And to the NHS at the time, saved my life. With no doubts about it.
Well, I think with that and the message that you've just given out there, that everyone I hope listens to, I think we're going to call it a day. Finish on that note. A message for all men to don't be scared, get out there, and women, like you say. You know, if you feel something wrong, push the doctor. Don't let them flog you off, because they do flog you off.
Especially now. They don't want to see you now. They're scared of everyone now. It's trying to see a doctor now. It's really difficult.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mate, you've been absolutely fantastic. Again, you know, we do live shows. I'd love you to come on as a guest to talk about football and that with the panel. One of our panel, Nigel Callan, who just joined us, ex-Watford, Derby, Villa, and England under 21s. He had cancer, very similar to what you were just saying. And he said the biggest battle for him was the 6 monthly check. The worry of, is it going to be clear? And he talks about that on Thursday, funny enough. Yeah, bless him. But love you to come on that at some point. And like I say, you know, let's get some of your material out there and let people see. And the minute you're ready to release any sort of book, then we'll happily promote it for you as well. And
thank you very much.
Without a doubt, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank you for probably one of the most emotional 2 hours of my life back in 2019 when we did that show together. I'm pretty sure in this discussion, our man Simon, and by the way, big round of applause for Simon, who's been sat in the background there, keeping everything ticking away for us, has said we think we can get our hands on a copy of that. And if we do, that is going on the website. It's an audio, obviously, but yeah, I'm sure people can judge it for themselves.
That was a special
it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll catch up. But if you want to stay on for a moment, and so folks, this has been our first edition of Proper Football Under the Floodlights. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have, and we'll be doing many more. So keep an eye out for the next person I put, or Dan or Simon puts under the floodlights. Be safe and be good.
Cheers.
And get back.